Hello everyone, and this is Marcio Cardoso here with another important video on another important political hot take. And in my opinion, this video I'm going to do is going to be the most important of them all. This is part 10 of my series on how to fix America. And I believe I'm saving the best for last. Yes, this is it. If you have been watching and enjoying the videos, this is it. At least for now. I might be adding videos in the future, so maybe it's not it. But I plan on this being the last video I'm going to release for a while. Uh, and I'm saving this topic for last because I think it's most important, and that is the financing of our campaigns and how they're done. Because how it's done, to me, affects everything regarding our politics. And I think there's so much wrong with our financing system when it comes to campaigns, which is why there's so much wrong with our politics. You fix the financing system, I think it goes a long way towards fixing everything else. All the other issues I talked about on my previous videos on healthcare or Medicare for all, on guns, on unionization, on immigration, and many other topics, all the other 9 topics that I had discussed in my 9 previous videos. It all comes back to this, campaign finance. So let's talk about it. What do I mean by campaign finance? Well, here we go. If you want to run for office in almost any position in this country, whether it's president or U.S. senator, House of Representatives, or governor, or state assembly, or mayor, or city councilman, anything, even probably the school board, you typically need some money. Now, the higher the office, the more money you need. For president, you need millions upon millions of dollars. You almost need $1 billion, really. For something that's as low level as school board, you probably could use a couple hundred to maybe 1,000 or so, a few thousand, but you don't need $1 billion. But you need money. That money goes for a lot of things. If it's for running for president, you need money for TV ads because you're running for president of the United States. The whole country has to know who you are, unless you're Donald Trump and kind of can sell it. But otherwise, you need TV time. And for most people running for office, that means you got to pay to get your name out there on commercial ads. And paying to get yourself on commercials, it's not cheap. If it's something low like running for school board, you still need money to get board signs or billboards or posters that get placed on people's houses that get your name out there. It doesn't cost as much money, but you still need those little things. Or you need people who are willing to go door to door and talk about you and where you stand on certain issues. Yes, you need money no matter what to run any kind of operation. Well, where do you get that money? Well, you can get it from donations from individuals, or you can get it from massive corporations, unions, you name it. Pretty much everything is fair game. And I think that's the flaw in the system, is that everything is fair game. And because we have a country now where more and more of the wealth is going to the 1%, it's easier and easier for the 1% to really rig the system. When certain people talk about how our system is rigged, this is how I think it's rigged. Our campaign financing system. You see, I'll give you the presidential election setup, for example, because that's what everybody knows most about, and that's what unifies us all, because we all vote for president. Typically, or what used to be the case, if you wanted to run for president, you need money, you need donations, you can only get a certain amount of money from certain people. That's how it used to be. Say I want to run for president, and I want to ask Bill Gates for money. In the past, I could have only asked Bill Gates for about $2,700 of his money in my primary campaign. Say I want to run the Democratic ticket because I'm a progressive and probably would do that. I would ask Bill Gates for $2,700. He'd write me a check for $2,700, and I could use that money to gain support, put TV ads together, you name it. That money would go towards financing me in my campaign to gain the Democratic nomination. Once I get the nomination, I could go back to Bill Gates for another $2,700 to try to win the election against the Republican nominee. And that'd be it. $5,400 from Bill Gates. That's it. I can get money from anybody, but not beyond a certain limit. That's how it used to be, but things changed. Several years ago, a very important Supreme Court decision called Citizens United basically changed the system to where now people can pretty much give as much money as they want to any candidate. Now I could go to Bill Gates for $10 billion and he can give it to me. Oh, technically it's still a limit of 2,700 and 5,400 for total. 2,700 for primary and general election, 5,400 total. But what Citizens United basically did was it created an all-encompassing loophole. What I could do is I could set up something called a super PAC. PAC stands for Political Action Committee. So I create a super political action committee. And by setting up the committee, Bill Gates would be allowed to donate infinite amounts of dollars to that committee. And then I could go to that committee and take that money out and use it for my campaign. I.e., Bill Gates can give me as much money as he wants now. There is no limit. And that's a problem. Because if Bill Gates can give as much as he wants, if certain wealthy billionaires can give as much money as they want to certain candidates, who do you think the candidates are going to listen to after they become elected? President, senator, congressman, mayor, governor? You know, I did a video about 2 years ago. You can find it if you subscribe to my channel. I think it's down here, Click the subscribe button. I don't know which side, but anyways, when you click the subscribe button, you'll find a video of mine 2 years old about why I believed in Bernie Sanders as a good presidential candidate. And this was a big one for me. Because Bernie Sanders didn't take money from the wealthy. He took money from everyday people. Because Bernie Sanders didn't have a super PAC. And because he didn't have a super PAC, he was bounded by the old school rules of you can only give so much money. Which therefore made it less likely for him to listen to the 1% and whatever they wanted. Every other candidate in the election of 2016 had a super PAC besides Bernie. And I believe, could be wrong here, but Donald Trump even had his own super PAC, which just doesn't make sense because he's already a billionaire. But point being, every other candidate, aside from Bernie Sanders, had a super PAC, which means they were taking in swaths of cash from people high up the chain. So even if a certain candidate says, oh, I'm going to do this and that, I'm going to fight for better wages for the working class, I want to cut taxes just for the middle class, really, once they're elected, they're probably going to do whatever it takes to help the 1%, because the 1% are by and large financing their campaigns via their super PACs. As I said in that video 2 years ago, and I'll say it now, these politicians, they don't serve the voters, they serve the financiers. I vote, let's say, I vote for Don Johnson, making up the name. I vote for Don Johnson. And then I go to a meeting later on and I say, hey, do you think you could do this, Don? I voted for you. Don will say, okay, I'll consider it. But let's say I gave Don Johnson $10 million to his super PAC. And he knows I gave $10 million. And now he's been elected to his position. And I go to Don and I say, hey, Don, I'd like this done. Don's probably going to say, oh, yeah, we're going to make sure it happens. And he will make sure it happens. Because then I'll go to Don and say, no $10 million next time. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, Mr. Cardoso, I'll do it. Whereas if I just voted for him and didn't give him much money or none at all, he'll go, we'll consider it. And even if I don't vote for him next time, he's not going to care. As long as he's getting the money. Because that money allows him to pay for TV ads and all other ways of selling himself. So even if he doesn't get my vote next time, he'll get someone else's vote next time. Unless I donate $10 million. Because now he doesn't just lose my vote if he doesn't listen to me. Now he loses my money. And there's only so many places you can go to get the big money. And I, as someone who donated $10 million, if he's not appeasing me, other millionaires and billionaires are going to go, hey, he's not listening to a millionaire donor. Other millionaire donors will probably not donate to him either. So the system is set up so that the politicians serve who finances them. And that makes sense. I get it. You should work for who cuts your checks. You work for the people who finance you, who pay you. You want to serve your boss well because your boss is paying you. As a politician, you're going to serve the people that pay you. Problem is, right now, it's set up so that the rich can just outfinance everybody else, so the politicians serve the rich. They serve their interests. And everyone else gets left behind. And this is why everyone else gets left behind. Because things like Citizens United happen. And it was already starting to go that way before Citizens United, but Citizens United just completely opened the floodgates. which is why we've got to reverse Citizens United. And the only way to do that is to have a Supreme Court that'll reverse it. And right now, you have 5 justices who would never touch Citizens United. You got 4 who might change it, but 5 who won't touch it. And with Trump in office, the president gets to nominate the new Supreme Court nominees. So you kind of have to hope for another president who's willing to change the system. Or you can get a constitutional amendment, but good luck with that. We need to have campaign finance reform. And I think it's simple. I think we should go back to the way it was before Citizens United. If an individual wants to donate up to $2,700 for a primary election and then another $2,700 for a general, fine. That means a rich guy's got a $5,500 influence on someone. It's a pretty big influence right there, but it's not the same as donating millions and millions of dollars. That way, if an elected official tries to reject a wealthy donor who only gave $5,000, okay, that politician can get that $5,000 elsewhere. But if you're rejecting a $10 million donation, or you're rejecting a person's demands and therefore rejecting their money, $10 million is a lot harder to get. Because most people can't afford to give $10 million. Most people will never even make $1 million in their lifetime. When you accumulate their wealth, it won't even add up to $1 million. I won't get that far. And I'm making decent money, but it won't get that far. And I'm actually making more money than most Americans. You know, I'm in the upper half, if you will. But I'm not in the 1%, trust me. Not even close to that. Just the upper 50%. 5-0. But we need reform. Getting rid of Citizens United goes a long way. I don't think some progressives think that we should have public financing of campaigns. Bernie Sanders said that we should publicly finance campaigns. I actually disagree with that. Because let's say I'm a hardworking taxpayer and a certain politician wants to take public financing, but I don't like that politician. I don't agree with him. I don't want my tax dollars going to that person's campaign, no matter who it is. So I think it should stay with private donations, and strictly private donations. I don't believe in creating a public financing system, which might shock some of you watching because, hey, I'm a progressive. Public financing is what all progressives want. No, that's not what I believe in. I believe it should stay in private financing, but that you limit the amount of private financing. Limit it to the way it was before Citizens United. $2,700 for a primary and $2,700 again for a general. That's all you can give. That's the max you can give. That'll curb the influence of the wealthy. But by keeping the donations all private, you know, a person can rightfully say, hey, at least my taxpayer dollars aren't going to that politician that I don't like in their campaign, because they wouldn't, because it's all private donations. That reduces the influence of the wealthy. It keeps the donation system private, which I'm okay with. But get rid of these super PACs. Get rid of PACs altogether. I don't believe in this idea of PACs. It's just loopholes. That's what they are. Political action committees are loopholes. Get rid of it. If you want to give, you give directly to a candidate, but you give a certain amount. Now, I know the counter argument will be, well, money is speech. Well, who said money is speech? The Supreme Court. So how do you change it? You got to change the Supreme Court. And so I'm aware that this thing isn't going to happen tomorrow. But it needs to happen. And until it happens, we're in a cluster. But we got 4 Supreme Court justices that I believe would like to change the system, who would be willing to get rid of Citizens United. 4 Supreme Court justices who would tell you that actually money isn't speech. The problem is there's 5 that do think money is speech. There's 5 that like Citizens United. So you need to switch one. You need to switch one. Hopefully that day will come soon. That's why I think that this last election was so critical, because even though Hillary Clinton took political action committee money, I think if she's president, she doesn't put Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court. She puts someone else who's at least more willing to reconsider Citizens United, more willing to curb campaign finance reform. I could have been wrong. Hillary took super PAC money, so I could be wrong. We'll never know, unfortunately. But we need to get the big time money out of politics. This idea that corporations are people that corporations can finance, no, get that out of there. Even the idea that unions can finance, I don't believe in that either. And I'm pro-union. There's a video on me supporting unions. But I don't think they should have the ability to donate to campaigns either. Flush it all out. Only individuals can donate, and you can only donate $2,700 for a primary and $2,700 for general, and that's it. Take away all the influence from these major groups. Bring it back to the people. Keep it privately financed. And I think now you'll have a system that's more fair, that'll create politicians that are more likely willing to listen to people and the masses and come to solutions that are going to help most people and not just a select few. And then all those other videos that I did and all those other solutions that I put forth and promoted, I think they have a chance of getting passed. Maybe not exactly the way I said it, but at least there'll be a compromise. Immigration reform. Several times we've reached a compromise, and yet it never passes because the 1% donate enough money to make sure that it doesn't pass, because it's in the interests, especially of the 1%ers, to keep this issue the way it is now, in a state of flux, at the status quo. To break through that status quo, we need to have campaign finance reform. It changes everything. No major changes are going to get done without it. But with campaign finance reform, you can expect to see a real political revolution, as Bernie Sanders once said. Hopefully, we catch a break and there's a change in the Supreme Court soon, because I don't see a constitutional amendment ever happening. But that's all you need is one Supreme Court justice switch. And you got to make sure you have the right president to select the correct replacement Supreme Court judge. And you need to have at least 51 senators to approve of that nomination, because the president only nominates the Supreme Court justice. It's got to get sealed and delivered by the Senate. So you need a lot to go right. But if we can just get this one done, it changes everything. And it would make America much better for it, and greater than it ever has been. This is the key video. Beyond any other issue, this is the video that I hope you're watching. This is the video that Democrats and Republican voters tend to agree on. A lot of conservatives agree that needs to be campaign finance reform as well, and don't like the idea of the 1% controlling the system, just like most Democrat voters. Most progressives believe that the system needs to change. This is why the system is rigged. This is why Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump said, it's rigged, it's rigged, it's a disaster, it's rigged, it's despair. And most people believe him because of this, because of our campaign finance laws and the way they are, which allows the wealthy to control everything. Well, my time is up. I gotta go teach my class now. And as I said earlier in the video, this will likely be my last video for a while. Because quite frankly, there is nothing more important than this issue. It's the end-all be-all, in my opinion. Fix campaign finance reform, and you can really fix America. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.